Hi, hello, my peaceful and profitable entrepreneurs. Welcome. It is Wednesday. I'm so glad to be here today. I apologize, I'm a few minutes late. I had client calls all morning and then I just really needed a snack. So I went to the fridge to get just something to like shove into my mouth real quick. And I had made these overnight oats. I don't know how long ago I made it. It still tasted good, but if any of you can tell me how long overnight oats are good for in the fridge, that would be great because I need to check into that and look because they might be getting past their prime. So let me pull up my Facebook here. If you're here today, and I would just love to hear from you and love to hear you comment. I just think the energy is so fun. And then I definitely want you to ask your questions and any specific details that you need. Let me know. Let me pull up the group. I can see, but I'm having trouble finding it. Here. And, usually I'm here every Wednesday at noon, but because of camp pickups this week and next week, we're doing 11 o'clock. So just a little note to say, but here we go. All right, we're cooking with gas. So today's topic is what my Vizsla puppy taught me about this business. This was something I posted on social media recently about, and I had a post and I just thought this would be a fun discussion to have. It's just kind of a silly analogy, but I think it's just so applicable to business and something that all of us can use. So it is an embarrassing story and it just took me a long time to figure it out. So, if you know my story, we have a Vizsla, they are very high energy. She's very smart. And during the day, like right now, she's just sleeping on her little place, not doing anything. I'll take her for like a walk or two. Well, right now it's a little too hot for 2 walks, but I'll take her on the walk in the morning. And then she pretty much just like chills with me during the day. And then when the girls come home in the afternoon, it's like bananas. Like she goes crazy. Like she's like my fourth child. Like she needs, she just is doing all this stuff to get attention. Like everything that she just left during the day, she's now like getting stuff off of the counter or getting, the kids' toys that they left laying around. And like she loves to play like chase and she loves for you to chase her to get it back. It's just the whole thing. And so the shoe bin was right there. We always take off our shoes. We come in the door and put it in the bin. And like she would just take the shoes like constantly. And I'd take it and get it back, take it and get it back. And I'd be like cooking dinner or changing, not changing diapers right now, but dealing with helping people on the potty and like just constantly like the battle of the shoes. And for months. I mean, this was like not 6 months, probably like 4 or 5 months. Like it was just so annoying and just something I had to deal with every day. And I was sitting on our porch and we had this piece of furniture and my husband, this drives him nuts, but I'm the kind of person that picks up stuff off the side of the road if I think I can use it. So this was just like this box. It's kind of like a footstool type of thing. It's wooden. It has a lid. We had it on the porch for the girls to sit on and they can kind of put their toys in. I know this is a lot of backstory, but I just wanted to give you the framework for this. So one day I'm sitting on the porch and I realized that, there's a lid on this box. Like this is like exactly the same size as the shoe bin. Like moved it inside, put the shoes in, closed the lid, and she just like stared at me because it blew like both of our minds. I was just like, oh, like a voice from heaven like told me to do this and I figured it out and solved that problem. And I mean, it's kind of embarrassing because that was just like such a simple thing. And it took me months to figure that out. But we do this in business all the time. So I really want to like have this conversation today, normalize this, and then try to like retrain our brains to notice these things. Because a lot of us we're kind of just dealing with things in our business because we have to, and we haven't like thought of a different way to do it. And so I'll give some examples personally from my business. And one is about a year ago when I started doing more advisory stuff and I was having more meetings. There was a lot of things that I just didn't need to be doing anymore. Ideally in my business, I want to only be doing what I can do and anything I can hand off, someone else will do it. That's like my long-term goal. So at the time I was like, oh, everybody talks about hiring VAs and I should hire a VA. And I interviewed people and I hired one. And the stuff I was having her do was just kind of ridiculous. Like I hired her for like 1 or 2 months and I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing paying her to do this? Because part of it was invoicing, which we have not been hourly like since year 2 of my business. I think I was hourly for the first 2 years. And then after that, switched everyone over to agreed upon pricing because we're doing the same work every month. They like it because they know what they're going to pay every month. It's just kind of like this automatic thing. And so the fact that I was still sending invoices at the end of the month was kind of like, oh, I just need to pay someone to do that. And then like I backtracked and was like, actually, I could just automate all of that. So, and it was kind of sticky because some clients I was billing after the month end for the previous month. Some I was billing at the beginning of the month for the next month. Like I had to get everyone on the same cadence. And so a couple people, we kind of had to like bill them at the beginning of the month, billing in the middle of the month, just to get them on that, on the first for the work going forward. So that was a little bit not tricky, but I had to really pay attention to billing for a couple months then. And I was paying my bookkeepers for work that they were doing, but I hadn't gotten the payment from the client yet. So this just kind of like made it so I'm getting paid from the client, then I pay my bookkeeper. Everyone is getting, you know, we're invoicing the same day and we're setting them up with, you know, automatic bill pay for all of these people. And so it just worked out. It just was like my brain was like, just automatically went to the like, oh, the VA needs to do this and here's how we're going to do it, which really I just needed to switch up my process. Didn't need the VA for that, you know, no offense to her or anything that she was doing, but that was just like, why didn't, you know, like, why didn't I see it on that end? And so just calling myself out of a couple of these things, just so you can, you know, kind of give you some ideas in your business and, you know, how to kind of think about things and look at things. Let's see, what else? I know with the bookkeeping, that I had to outsource because for so long I was doing it myself and I was just kind of overwhelmed. You know, if you know my story, I had small kids at home for many years. So really for me, just being in business those years was like the win. Like just staying in business, not closing the doors when I found out I was pregnant with my second child when my first child was 5 months old, like stayed in it. You know, I never took a real maternity leave after that. You know, I would just work with the baby sleeping in the, you know, Mamaru sometimes been in that, you know, pouch that you wear. Like I would literally spend hours at my desk working with the baby attached to me because that was the only way they would sleep. So, you know, that being said, that win was staying in business. But, you know, getting that point in my business where I was like, oh, I don't have to do all of this. Like I can have someone help me. I can get support, you know, and it was just, I needed to get to that place. But, you know, just that's another thing that I've implemented that really helped, you know, change the way I was thinking. So let's see, what other examples do I have? So, and the other thing I just want to talk about is, you know, we're humans. So we're really good at adapting to things. And that is a good thing. And it's also a bad thing because we can adapt to, you know, like this pain in my side and I just keep going and it's just there all the time. You know, I don't have a pain in my side, but, you know, we kind of like have these things that we just don't deal with initially and then they just stay there. Or like, yeah, but the fire detector in my room, like the wiring hung down for like months and like I would see it and it never occurred to me to like, hey, Adam, can you like fix that? Because he never comes in this room, so I don't think he saw it. But it just never occurred to me like, hey, we can like fix that and do something about that. So this just, you know, looking at your business and kind of like taking a step back. Most of us are so involved in our business, or we're always thinking about our business, or we have so many things to do. We're just like rushing through them. But really taking the time, and I know it's summertime, kids are home, this might be a hard thing to do, or it might be a perfect time for it because you're kind of stepping away a little bit more, maybe at the pool or the beach. But, you know, thinking about your day, like working in your business, going through your day, slowing down and looking at each task, or looking at when you're doing something, you're just like, have that not dread feeling, but something in your business you don't love doing, or that's just like, oh, it's time to do this again. Like with me, it's like, oh, time to sit down and do my monthly invoices. Guess I'll sit here for 30 minutes and send these out, you know, and it's like, you know, if I would have taken a moment to just like slow down and be like, is there a better way? And part of that resistance to me also was wondering if clients were going to be on board with that. And I was scared to approach them about getting on automatic billing. You know, that was a fear that got kicked up for me. So I dragged my feet about switching over to that for a long time. But I mean, that's just a beautiful example of if you are having resistance, like looking at that, why am I having resistance? So for me, it was like, well, I'm scared if I get them set up on automatic billing, they're going to have pushback and they're not going to want to do that. But then it's like, why? Why would that change anything? Like it makes their life easier. Like they already pay me the same amount every month. This way, they don't have to like go in and manually do it every month. Like they know it's done, it's correct, like it's the same thing. So just like walking myself through that fear of what would happen if I did change this or if I did systematize it more. I think that's just a great place to like, if you're looking at this and you're like, well, I have to do it this way. I don't like doing it this way, but I'm afraid of what will happen if I change it. Like really give yourself the permission to go there and figure out like what's the fear underneath that. Because when we're pushing that fear down, it's not going anywhere. So let it come out, let it just come to the surface. When we speak things out loud or when we write it down, it just really kind of takes the power away from those fears. So I really want you to see what gets kicked up during this process. So one of the things I said is, when you're going through your day, pay attention, because I want you to be able to walk away with a couple things today that you can do in your business to see if you are, have that proverbial shoe bin that the dog keeps taking shoes out of. So the first thing is to pay attention. And it sounds very simple, but just realize how on autopilot we get with a lot of things in our business. Like I have a checklist here of things, like when I'm walking around the house, hanging out with my daughter during the day, like things just come to me that I like need to do or write down. So I write them down. But just thinking about all these autopilot tasks that are there and just stepping back and thinking about like, is there a different way? Or, could someone else do this? Or what would this look like if I did this? Some things I'm thinking about for next summer, just with like my work schedule and everything. Like I'm already thinking about that and like, how can I make it better? Like, how can I have a better schedule for me, for my kids? Like, well, we're going to all be home together. Kind of like, does it have to be the way that I did it this year? Like the way I did it this year was great and it worked, but like thinking about next year, like, could I change a few things and tweak it and it would support my clients better and it would be better for our schedule, just figuring that out. And like, that's a year ahead of time. But like, I love that I'm giving myself this plenty of time to think about it because I get to like change that, maybe recreate it and like do what I want to do instead of it just being the summer and be like scrambling for camps and childcare, but like figure out like, how can I make this work for me and my clients in a better way? So, that's just kind of something like, it doesn't have to be something you can change right now or that you can do right now, but thinking like, a lot of people have busy season in the, Christmas time, like in the winter. And it's like, well, I also want to spend time with my family in the winter. So like thinking about like, how do I mitigate some of that tension? Like if I know that I need to work a lot, like I want to be with my kids because it's a special time of the season. Like, how can I go ahead and like figure out a way that works in a win-win? Like just start thinking about things, like naming things. Like, I even say, like, if you're thinking about something or you have a problem and you want to change something, like even write down like 15 to 19 alternatives, like just go crazy. And like, some of them don't make sense and some of them will never work, but like, just really give yourself permission to like, let it all out, like any crazy idea, because we get so stuck in our thinking of like, well, this is the only way to do this. And I don't like the way this works, but like, what else am I going to do? Just like, go crazy, let your imagination run wild and get it out there. And then if you have to keep writing and nothing comes out that really works for you, just give your brain a break and walk away from it. And I guess it's called like incubation period or something, whatever artists use where they're working on something and then they walk away and let it kind of like percolate in their brain. Like it's just a nice process to give yourself some breathing room. So that's the second thing I want to like other tasks today, like, okay, pay attention instead of going on autopilot. The other thing is give yourself space, brain space, white space, whatever you want to call it. If you're in the online space, you're so inundated with everything. We've got podcasts, we have lives like this one, which I am all about, like podcasts and lives and learning and improving. Like I love all of that stuff, but I really make a conscious effort to not have the phone, not have a podcast, like when I go walk the dog and just like stare at the birds and stare at the trees. And, part of me is like, oh, I'm not like learning, or I should be like calling someone to connect with this person. And I'm like, no, just give your brain some space, give it some downtime, because like there's books written about this and I've read them and I can't remember the name of them. I don't remember what it was, but I don't even know if I read the whole thing, because the gist of it was basically like, give your brain some space. Like that's how we are more creative, is when we're not constantly consuming stuff. But really giving our brain, like when you're brushing your teeth, like half of us are like, sometimes I'm like responding to text while I'm brushing my teeth, and it's like, just stand there and brush your teeth. Like give your brain some space and some downtime. You don't have to be so like check things off the list every second, because it makes a huge difference. So, step back, pay attention, and also give your brain some space. You take nothing away from this today, give your brain some space. And then also, just contact me. Like if you want to talk about this, or let me pull up, make sure, see if we have any questions, but drop a comment in the section. Like you can get support here. We're here to support you in this group. And, if you're like, this is kind of like my problem, I don't see any way around this, like drop it in the comments, let us know, schedule a call with me. Like I love being a thought partner, and I love like noodling on this stuff with people. Like I think it's so much fun, and just having an outside perspective can just be so helpful. We just kind of get stuck in our own story and our own ways of doing things. And so I think this group is just a beautiful, asset to you. And so use us as your thinking partners. And let me check my notes. There's no comments. Y'all are super quiet. So if you have any questions, or if you're like, this sounds good in theory, but I don't really understand what you're saying, like, let me know, drop a question. Let's see. Make sure I'm looking through my notes. Oh, and another example of thinking about things that you're doing, when Sarah, my bookkeeper, Sarah, she was on here a couple of weeks ago, we had our quarterly meeting right before we went live together. And we were talking about like, always reminding clients, like, update your Ask spreadsheet, like let us know so that we can go in and update QuickBooks. And I was like, I wish there was a way that like, it would just tell me when they updated it. And then we're like, surely there is. So we Googled it and there was, and we went and turned on all the notification things for those shared spreadsheets. And it's like, like all I had to do was just like stop for a minute and think about it, Google it, and there's the answer. So it's just like these tiny little things of like, how can we constantly improve? How can we constantly make things easier for our clients? And just looking at it from their perspective, looking at it from our perspective, and what works and what both of us need. And it was like, all I had to do was a Google search, and that just made it so much easier. So full permission to, just look at some of these, quote unquote, simple areas that can just really be improved and really help your customers' experience as well. It doesn't need to be just on your end and how you feel in business and how, everything runs and works for you. It can really support your team and the clients and customers and the people you serve, and help them have a better experience and better results. Because if you're doing something that feels good to you and works in your business, it's probably going to help them as well. And especially if we're looking at it from that client experience, that client side, getting client feedback, whether it's testimonials or just feedback in general, really taking that to heart and using it. Like a lot of companies sometimes just ask for feedback, but really taking that seriously and letting them know that you've used it and figuring out how you can work it and make a better experience for your clients. So I think that's all I have for today, but I hope y'all enjoyed my silly little story about the Vizsla, and I hope this inspires you to really look at your business and see where you're kind of just adapting and dealing with things, and instead really reworking it, or kind of finding another way to make it easier, make it more fun. When that happens, we become more profitable. So I like to call this group Peaceful and Profitable Entrepreneurs, because when we have everything kind of on ease and it feels good, that's when we get more work, we get more clients, and we're happy, and our business sustains us for the long term. So again, if you would like some support, I give, free Get Honest with Your Strategy to Scale calls. I'll drop a link below. They're literally 30 minutes. We talk about, what is working well in your business, what challenges you're facing, and then some action steps you can walk away with. And this is the kind of stuff we're doing. Like sometimes people don't even realize what's going on because they haven't thought about it. But when they stop to think about it, talk to someone, say it out loud, that's when we can really like look into things and create better processes and steps and all the fun stuff for our business. So I'll drop the link below. Sign up. I only do 2 of those a week. So I'm not fully booked for August yet, but if you're interested, go ahead and snag one of those. And I'll see you next week at 11 o'clock. Thanks.